We're 120 episodes in, and I still love that sound. It gets me pumped up every time. Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And what a weekend for Tennessee athletics. My goodness, it was a huge weekend. So much has happened. Even today, stuff's still happening today. And so we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. And we are so happy and so thankful to be joined by the man wearing the best looking shirt of any of us, and that is Mr. Reed Carringer. Reed, welcome, buddy. Good to have you with us.
Honored to be an honorary bro. Good to be back. Gentlemen, as always.
That's what I'm talking about.
More importantly, he repped it all day at Dollywood.
I did. I was trying to rep it and troll you a little bit, Rustin, by taking a picture in front of the Wild Eagle there.
That was awesome. As soon as I saw that, I noticed. I was like, "Oh, that's the Wild Eagle in the background."
I was intentional, and it was kind of hot today. I was like, "I'm gonna go short sleeve shirt." Oh, I've got this planned out.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, welcome everyone. My goodness, what a huge weekend. Softball team won 2 out of 3 at Auburn. Baseball team won 2 out of 3 home against Georgia. And the basketball team, unfortunately, won 1 out of 2. But having said that, let's talk specific. And if you want, I don't care. You can talk about Creighton too if you want to. I don't care. But specifically, let's make sure we talk about what happened at Purdue. And Reed, we'll start with, this weekend at first, and then we'll end this section of the show by talking about just the season as a whole. So what were your thoughts specifically about this weekend and very specifically about the Purdue game?
Well, no quit in Tennessee, right? Clearly outmanned in that game against Purdue. Well, I think pretty much any team but UConn would be in America. But no quit in that team, battled till the end like we thought this team would. One of the things that stood out just for the weekend for me was, and it really stood out this year, when Tennessee needed to be good, they were good. The win at Bama, the win at Rupp, the win against Auburn, the win at South Carolina, the disappointing stretch of losing at home to Kentucky, losing at Mississippi State in the SEC tournament. Those games really didn't matter. And then you get to the NCAA tournament, and they hit the shots when they needed to. They got the stops when they needed to against Creighton. They looked like they were going to get run out of the gym there for a minute against Purdue in that second half. I've never seen a Tennessee team that tired, but they battled back, hit some shots, got back, tied the game up, and stayed within striking distance until the very end. So that was the biggest thing for me, is they were good when they had to be, and they were outmanned in that game and still had a shot to win it right there at the end.
Rustin, what did you think about this weekend specifically and most specifically yesterday?
Absolutely no fight left in those guys. They left everything they had on the floor. Anybody should be proud to have those kids represent them. After the game, it was telling some of the things that Zach Edey was saying and doing publicly. It's like, dude, this is why no one likes you. It's just unbelievable to be so tone deaf post game to do and say some of the things he was saying and doing. Before the tournament, I picked Tennessee to lose that game.
Like he agreed with you there.
Yeah.
I did as well.
Yeah. And mainly for one reason and one reason only. And I went ahead today and did the math just to make sure I had the exact number after last night. This year, Purdue has shot 388 more free throws than their opponents.
That's I
would be willing to bet that that's probably higher than normal.
I would be willing to bet that's first in the country by a lot.
Forever.
So going into that game, if you knew Purdue was plus 370 on free throws against their opponents, and then I told you that JP Estrella was going to get all of Jonas Aidoo's minutes in the second half, how would you think we did?
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that we only lost by 6 and had a chance speaks to how hard these kids played, speaks to how resilient they were in the midst of really difficult moments. How a 7'4" guy can camp out in the middle of the lane all night and have 16 fouls called against him, but only 1 on him. I don't understand that math. I coached post players. I've never had a post player do that before. And I had a 6'11" kid that was an ESPN 300. Never had him do that against high schoolers. So I'm not real sure how a guy playing at a major Power 5 level in an Elite 8 game can pull that off. It's just they were playing 5-on-8.
So Mino, like he said, JP was great in his minutes. And
he was.
I mean, kudos to him.
Fought.
And we found out why he was in the game afterward in Rick Barnes' post-game press conference. In the post-game press conference, Rick Barnes said that Jonas was just really having difficulty keeping. They were trying to make sure that when Edey posted up, he had to post up as far away from the basket as possible. And he said Jonas was just really struggling keeping him out of the middle of the lane, not allowing him to post up right in front of the basket. And JP came in and he did a decent job. Like, he kept him out of the lane.
Which is also a really nice way of saying Jonas got bullied. I mean,
absolutely.
Jonas got bullied, and it started affecting him offensively. He was altering shots, worrying about it getting blocked. If I told you JP Estrella was going to outscore Jonas,
that's not good.
That would have gone.
That is not good. Mina Likey, is this your Zach Edey impression? I am Groot. I'm trying to figure out that comment. I think that's what it is. Kevin said Jonas didn't seem like himself. Welcome, Kevin. Good to have you, buddy. He did not seem like himself. And even the normal jumpers that he typically hits, he did not.
He was not good against Creighton. He was not good late against Texas. It was a 3-game stretch, really, for him, where he just didn't play like he played most of the year. And so if you get even 75% of the Jonas Aidoo you got most of the year, I think Tennessee maybe wins that game. There's a couple other factors we can talk about in that game, but yeah, the Edey stuff's obviously the big storyline. But yeah, Rustin, to your point, kudos to Estrella, and that bodes well for Tennessee moving forward. I like Barnes said something paraphrased about him, that he doesn't think he's physical, but he's physical, and we saw that. Really, and then the little kind of instinctual oop from Connect was huge.
That was pretty sweet.
Love that play. Really, for his, I really have no qualms at all with Tennessee's effort, Tennessee's game plan. I thought it was great, as good as you can do, and even the way they changed it up there, and being willing to bench Aidoo, everything. I thought there was no other arrows in the quiver for Coach Barnes, and there were no other arrows in the quiver for the basketball team. They threw it all out there, and it just wasn't enough that day. That's how small the margin is.
Absolutely, 100%. I was correct. That was Mino Likey's Zach Edey impression. Let's see. Moondrops Beauty, welcome. Good to have you. She said, I keep hearing everyone say, and I think this is a very legitimate point. She said, I keep hearing everyone say that the refs just don't know how to officiate Edey. Well, he's been playing Division I basketball for 4 years, so they got to do better. And she said, if I was really bad at my job in a specific area for 4 years straight, I'd be fired. Just saying. That's a fair point, in my opinion. That is a fair point.
I thought the most telling thing after the game, and the fouls are what they are. The thing that bothered me more was when he's in the game, we just completely eliminate the 3-second call. Like, it is non-existent. And when you have national media members who work for ESPN tweeting out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, calling out the fact that he's in the lane for this long. I mean, we're talking about including major college basketball coaches that now work for ESPN tweeting this stuff out.
Yeah.
When people who are in the know are actively criticizing officials in a national forum, it's bad. And I'll be I'll be curious to see, because they got so much negative PR after that game and it was so public. I'll be curious to see if the Final Four gets called differently. It'll be interesting to see if they go to the refs ahead of time and they're like, look, this isn't happening again.
It's interesting to your point, to everybody's point, really. I don't think you can't have a guy that's officiated that way consistently for 3+ years unless it's coming from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Because we've all seen different players on Tennessee's team get officiated differently depending on who the crew is. You're going to get a crew that is going to call that foul on this player and a bunch of crews that don't. It's consistent every game. I watched Purdue a lot this year, and that wasn't a Tennessee thing. And to your point, they took like 400 more free throws than their opponents.
Yeah.
It's not a Tennessee thing. It's a Purdue thing. And it's not that the refs were out to get Tennessee. It's that for years they've for whatever reason chosen to not call 3 seconds or 6 seconds or 10 seconds or a foul on the biggest player on the court. And that, to me, I'm not getting all conspiracy theory on you, but the refs and the NCAA, they have these conversations about, hey, these are the focuses we want. And I know they talked about Zach Edey. They had to, if every single crew in the whole country officiates him the same way, because no other player gets that treatment. None.
Well,
Dalton Knecht didn't get that treatment. In fact, I think he got less fouls called in his favor than any National Player of the Year runner-up I've seen that I can remember in a long time. So it has to come from the top. And I knew the game was going to be like that, guys. Like, I would have, if it wasn't Easter and I have little kids, I would have probably driven to Detroit if they were playing Kansas or Gonzaga or Alabama or anybody else. But I had no desire to drive up there to watch what I knew was going to happen. And it was exactly that. It was exactly that.
So to what you just said, I have a friend that's an official at the mid-major level, Division I, calls a lot of Southern Conference, Big South, different stuff like that. Even at the mid-major levels, they will have virtual meetings because they don't have the money to bring the refs to one spot. They will have virtual meetings ahead of the conference games and talk about, hey, this guy for East Tennessee State likes to flop a lot. Hey, this guy for UTC, he likes to, bow people in the back when you're not looking. So keep your head on a swivel, make sure you see that stuff. Like, they alert them of every little minutia ahead of the games to make sure that stuff doesn't get out of hand. So to what you were just saying, like, there's absolutely been a lot of conversations about how they're going to officiate him.
Well, I think Reed just had probably the best quote that we'll have from the whole show. He didn't even mean it like to be this way, but he said, Rustin, you mentioned they had like shot 400 more free throws than their opponents.
388.
So when Reed said that wasn't hyperbole. Like, it sounded like he was just being, outlandish. Like, they probably shot 400 more. No, he's being serious. Like, that is what happened.
41 of those came against Tennessee. They shot 41 more than Tennessee in 2 games. Tennessee lost those 2 games by 10 points.
Yep.
Unreal.
I haven't had a chance to go back and chart it, but I would almost bet, as a team, they had 388 more free throws attempted than their opponents. I would almost bet Zach Edey has shot more free throws than their opponents.
Probably. Well, he doubled up Tennessee yesterday. And he had almost twice as many free throws as the whole team of Tennessee did yesterday. That's
it's that was the draw that I did not want, and that is why when we did the show a few weeks ago, I said I think they'll beat Creighton. I don't think they can get past Purdue, and that's where not either being that last 1 seed, which would have been UNC and Alabama's bracket, which Alabama ended up winning that side. Or if being the top 2 seed, they should have been in that bracket with Alabama and UNC because they should be playing the last 1 seed, which was North Carolina. For whatever reason, the committee put them in gave them geographical preference over matchup preference. And I hated that because I do think that the margin, again, is so small that that seeding, if it was different, I think they make it to the Final Four. And then one other thing on that game that I want to make a point, and I think maybe goes underrated. I think if Vescovi doesn't get the flu, that they win that game, and not necessarily because of his production, but you saw how tired those guys were, and I've never seen a Rick Barnes team that tired. And it just puts so much more on Zakai, on Meshack, on JJ, on everybody on that team when Vescovi was out for the whole Creighton game. In a do-or-die game that they knew they had to win that game. You know, if you lose to Purdue, no harm, no foul. But you have to beat Creighton. And him being out for that game, I think, really affected Tennessee more against Purdue. And he was unplayable late in that game, too. You saw it in his eyes. That dude looked sick as a dog still. He looked rough. And not saying I didn't think he was going to light up the game or anything, but doing all the little things he does, put all that extra pressure on Tennessee's guards, and they really wore down late in that Purdue game. And otherwise, I think you're seeing him maybe go to pressing Purdue a little bit, speeding them up. And I think Barnes knew his guys didn't have the gas in the tank. So just 2 bad breaks there for Tennessee. One in seeding and one with Vescovi getting the flu, I think really did cost Tennessee.
Yeah, I really wished at some point, like the 12 to 8 minute mark in the first half, I really wish they had rolled Cam Carr and Freddie DeLeon out there for a few minutes and just pressed and run, just to run Edey's legs down a little bit, force him to play the length of the floor. I don't know why they get in those moments and they just don't trust those guys for a few minutes here and there. But I would have loved to have seen them turn it into a track meet for a few minutes just to wear him down a little bit. You know, when you look at all the times Tennessee made runs during the game, it was when they were pushing the ball.
Right.
You know, without Santi, you're limited on how much you can do that. But I wish they had taken a shot with DeLeon and Cam just to see. I mean, look at JP Estrella. Who would have ever imagined he would come out there and play like that?
Yeah.
I think that's something maybe they would do if they didn't end the game on Saturday. Also, you know, it was a quick turnaround, like somebody just mentioned there. And then really, if we got that Purdue game Friday instead of Sunday when they're fresher, I think that would have benefited Tennessee as well, given that. Because I do think that's one of the things I've loved about this team this year, and what I think has really been kind of a metamorphosis in Barnes's offensive strategy is they've been willing to push the tempo a lot, and it's been great for Tennessee. So I'm with you, Russ, and that was the one thing I thought that I would have loved to have seen, and I think he just didn't think his guys had the gas in the tank to do it.
Somebody asked a question about 3-second call and why Rick Barnes wasn't arguing it more. They would never say this publicly, but a couple of the assistant coaches said it anonymously to Austin Price, and he printed it. They had so many scouting reports from other coaches they respected, and the common denominator in all of them was they're never going to call 3 seconds, so just figure out a way to get around it. You know, so they knew coming into it, it was a lost cause.
So, they haven't called it for years on him. It's not new. That's it. You're right. Yeah.
So when I do my breakdown of what I thought about yesterday, that's actually one of the things I was going to talk about was exactly what Mino, like he just said. I'm going to try to run through the comments real quick. We had a bunch come through. Carl said, late for the show, but I'm here now. I had to come from way off the bench. I fouled out against Edey in pregame warmups. Had no idea I was standing so close. I love it, Carl. It's awesome, man. Kevin was talking about Jonas. He said the hook shot in the paint just wasn't working yesterday. It was not. Even with Tobe, when he did his turnaround, jumper, you could tell he was having to alter his shot to get around Edey and above Edey as well. I mean, the dude's like 7'4" and has a 11-foot, 80,000 inch reach. So I mean, like, the guy can alter some shots, man. Mina, like he said, my heart aches for this team, absolutely. But she said, but this year has been so fun, absolutely.
In the midst of all of it, we don't need to miss the fact that Josiah Jordan-James had an unbelievable tournament. That guy played his tail off every single game.
Absolutely.
He was like your quintessential Swiss Army knife, right? Just anything you needed to do to win. The Creighton game was massive. His scoring was had 16 points on 5 or 6 attempts.
Yeah.
And then block Kalkbrenner, his defense on 7'2", 7'4" guys, just legacy type performance for him, and a beautiful way to see his career end, really, because I don't think you could ask any more from that guy, guarding 1 through 5, scoring at the rim, scoring in that jumper, rebounding, steals, 3-point shooting. Just a beautiful series. Good point.
Absolutely. Tony, welcome. Tony, good to have you, buddy. He said Zakai played too many minutes. He was gassed. His legs were weak on offense. Not his fault. We needed him on offense. DK didn't have much help. He played. Zakai played all 80 minutes between Friday and Saturday, Sunday, right?
He sat like a minute. They stole a minute between it was the under 12 timeout or something, or he may have played 39. I don't know. They took him out for a possession or two, and then got the under 12 or under 8 media timeout too. Stole some rest because
Jordan Gainey ran one possession on offense and almost threw the ball away, and he was immediately back at the table.
Right? Yes, yeah. But I think that was the point. They knew they had the media timeout coming up, and just, hey, we got to get him a breather, because it wasn't our eyes were not deceiving us like that. We're not used to seeing that team tired. They're never tired.
JL said the NCAA was against us winning. Just look at the way they scheduled us. No doubt. We mentioned 2 weeks ago when we did the bracketology show, it was blatantly obvious that the NCAA had storylines in mind and how they placed the teams. They didn't seed them; they placed them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And to their credit, they got exactly what they wanted out of the Midwest region. They got Zakai Ziegler playing against his half brother. They got Rick Barnes coaching against Texas in the second round. And then they got the 2 National Player of the Year candidates going up face-to-face against each other in the Elite Eight. So they got exactly what they hoped they would get.
But even in the Creighton game, there was a storyline. Creighton's head coach is only there because Rick Barnes convinced him to take the job. So there was a storyline for every single game.
Well, and not to, I don't think anybody likes the NCAA, but it was entertaining basketball.
Sure. Right? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Those were good games with some good storylines, and it definitely drew a lot of people in. I think it was pretty neat to see Tennessee come through in those moments this time, for sure.
Yeah. I like this. Edie's still shooting free throws as we speak. Absolutely.
If I never watch that guy play another game of basketball, I will be okay with it.
Well, as soon as he gets to the NBA, you won't have to worry about it because he'll never play another minute.
That's accurate.
So Jared, thank you, buddy. We appreciate this. So Jared combined the stats from both games, and he said in both times Tennessee played Purdue this year, Tennessee as a team had a total of 41 free throws. Zach Edey had a total of 39. That's unreal. I mean, my goodness.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Mino, like he said, haven't felt this bad since I had a vasectomy that's not tacked on.
It's never gonna go away. It's like The Office. It's just gonna keep finding a way to work its way into the conversation.
Oh man, that is fantastic. Well played, Mino Likey. Well played. Let's see. Carl said, takes toll on you during the game when you're elbowed in the face by eating. It's not a foul, or bump a guy and he flops like he was tackled. Yep, that's totally fair.
That was the only foul they called. It took him shoving someone like into the second row right in front of the officials to get called.
That's
and
exactly
even then,
right.
I was not sure it was going to get called. I really was.
And apparently Purdue's fans were booing the refs in the stadium when that foul got called. I was like, how in the world could you argue that?
It's
unreal.
So I think some of the commenters' points there, it's not so much, I did think they definitely had a quick whistle when Tennessee's strategy was to kind of play him 1.5 on 1, let the guards in the wings sort of collapse down and him not know if they're doubling or not, or collapse down late so he doesn't see him. And it worked really well, except as soon as those guys got within like 6 inches of him, they'd blow the whistle, it seemed like. Whereas on the other end of the floor, that's not the treatment that Tennessee got. So I had an issue with the quick whistle on the defense of Tennessee, but I probably had more of a whistle with how can that guy push Adu in the back and not get called, or elbow a walk in the face and not get called,
Absolutely.
or push James on the floor and not get called, or dive for a loose ball and a walk and get called for his 5th foul.
Absolutely.
Diving
Yes,
into his body. That was a ridiculous. I thought
they're 100% right on that.
There was one, and the refs missed it when it happened, but Josiah actually pointed it out to him, and they did nothing with it. But there's a still shot where you can see Zach Edey clearly throwing an elbow into Josiah's face. And when it happened live, I just happened to notice that Josiah immediately looked at the ref and went flagrant 1 and made the review motion, and the ref just stared at him. And it's like, in any other game this year, if a guy jerks around and makes that reaction that quickly, every single official has blown it dead and gone to that monitor. I mean, it's been like clockwork. As soon as it happens, they immediately stop and go check. Nothing.
So one of the most obvious fouls that was not called, and I mean, we could put up tons of stuff up here on screenshots that have happened of what he did. But one of the most obvious ones was he elbowed JP Estrella right in the face. And Audrey Kaler, she is awesome. She sends us stuff all the time. She just sent me a screenshot of it. For some reason, it's not downloading correctly, but that's all right. So that particular elbow, I mean, it was just blatantly obvious. I mean, and if you go find the screenshot of it on Twitter, I mean, it's an elbow straight to the face. That wasn't called. So here's my takeaway from yesterday's game. One thing that I think that we can all agree on, everybody watching this, no matter who you're a fan of, one thing we can all agree on is that Tennessee was a Final Four caliber team. When you look at the 4 teams who are in the Final Four, well, let's back up to the Elite 8. Tennessee played half of the Elite 8 on their regular season schedule, and they were 4-1 against those teams during the regular season. When we look at the Final Four, they played Purdue twice, lost both those games, but they beat Alabama twice, and they beat NC State earlier this year too. So the 2 of the other teams in the Final Four, Tennessee's already beat them a total of 3 times this season. I mean, they are 100% a Final Four caliber team. And poor NC State, they have no chance against Purdue. None. Because DJ Burns isn't going to play defense hard enough on Edey to make any bit of difference. And the only other guy is the Diabate, or how you pronounce his name, Diabara, I can't remember. He's the only other big guy they got that could make any kind of difference, and he's going to be in foul trouble before the first half is over. So NC State has no chance against Purdue. Purdue has to just be salivating because they know they're going to play UConn in the championship game. Here's my thoughts on the whole 3-second stuff, specifically about the game yesterday. And let me say, before I say any of that, kudos to the Tennessee men's basketball team because they played their tails off. And I think everybody who watched could see that. Unfortunately, the same thing that plagued them all season was there were scoring droughts during the game, and that ended up coming back to bite us. But to the point about Edey, we'll start with the 3-second stuff because I do think it's interesting. No one mentioned the 3-second thing specifically in the postgame press conference. Rick Barnes brought it up on his own. Nobody mentioned it before he brought it up. Now, just like Reed had said earlier, and just like Rustin had said, unfortunately, nobody calls that anymore. And to Mina Likey's question, she said, if a foot goes out, does the clock reset? That's what I've heard. So here's the deal. Once I just wanted to make sure that I knew exactly the rule before I talked about it. But as soon as 1 foot enters the lane, the clock starts. It does not reset until both feet leave the lane.
Yes, you have to leave with everything.
Now, unfortunately, that is never how it's called in the game. And let's be totally honest. For a 3-second call to be made, the guy really has to be in the lane a total of about 5 to 6 seconds without the ball. Because refs won't even notice it as soon as the first foot goes in. they might look over and be like, oh, he's in the lane. All right, I'll start counting now. And that might be 1, maybe 2 seconds after he started getting in the lane. And it's just the way it's called. But if the guy receives a pass, then they stop the clock. I mean, that's just the way refs do it. If a shot goes up and he's boxing out, they stop counting. So really, it's just you have to be in the lane for 3 seconds, posting up, trying to receive a pass. Now, with those criteria in mind, even though that's not actually the technical rule, but with those criteria in mind, I went back last night and I stopped at the under 8 media timeout in the first half because it was just too painful. But I went back and I watched the first 12 minutes of the game again with the stopwatch. And every time Zach Edey entered the lane, I timed it. In that 12 minutes, there were only 2 times when he was in the lane without a shot going up or receiving a pass that he was in there for more than 3 seconds. And both times one time it was 4 seconds, one time it was 5 seconds. Unfortunately, that's probably just not long enough for them to notice it and start counting, especially when they're trying to protect him with apparently their own lives. Apparently there's a pact made. I'm sure footage will be released soon. Prior to this season, all the NCAA officials were in a room holding up their right hands and pledging that they will protect Zach Edey at all costs when they're even the risk of their own lives. I'm sure that footage will be released soon. But here's my thing, and this is what I'm going to say about Zach Edey yesterday. Obviously, dude is, I mean, you can't stop him because he's just too daggone big. However, my issues, similar to what Reed said earlier about how he jumped backwards going for the ball and Tobey got called for it. My issues with Zach Edey were the things that were not called. Obviously, the 2 elbows to the face that everybody saw, but there were 3 other things that happened that I still can't explain why they weren't called. There were 2 illegal screens and 1 loose ball foul that neither were called. The loose ball foul was when he dove. Now, here's the thing. Once again, it's an unwritten rule. If you're trying to tie up a basketball to get a jump ball, you have to go at the ball from in front of the person. Maybe you can get away with the side, but you have to go at it from the front, get your hands on the ball. They call a jump ball, tie it up. If you try to reach around the person from behind them and grab the ball, they will call a foul on you 100% of the time until yesterday. And when there was that loose ball near midcourt, Josiah got on the court to go after the ball, and Zach Edey dove on his back and reached around from behind him and grabbed the ball. 100 out of 100 times that happens in a game, the officials are going to call that a foul on the guy who dove on his back. Not yesterday. They called it a jump ball. That one shocked me. I still don't understand why that wasn't a foul. The other 2 were 2 illegal screens in the second half. One of them, yes, what Rustin's showing on the screen right now, that
there was called a jump ball.
Yeah, that is 100% a foul. The other
Josiah.
one of the screens so there were actually 3 that were questionable. The one that everybody's probably thinking about in their heads is actually the one that I'm not talking about because they thought it was just a hard screen. And Zakai fell down. I mean, 5'9" kid ran into a 7'4" kid. Man, that just happened.
I did have an issue with that one because he slid his hip out a little bit. And he's
no. So that's not the one I'm talking about.
He leaned into it.
Okay, the one that y'all are talking about is one of the 2 that I had an issue with. There was another one where the guy hit him and just fell down. That one I'm not talking about. The one that y'all are talking about is one of the 2 that I have a big issue with, because if you go back and watch it, his left leg and left hip, he moved both of them towards the defender. In that case, at the top of the key, he moved both towards the defender and leaned into him that's a moving screen. That's an illegal screen. Like that wasn't even close. If the player isn't stationary and leans into the defender, that's an illegal screen. Like you can't do that. Wasn't called. And the thing is, that's not like hidden. Like you could say some stuff is hidden in the post when people are banging, the refs just don't see it. I get that. That's not hidden. That's in plain, right at the top of the key. Everybody and their mama could see that one. The guy leaned out to make the screen because, and that was his own teammate's fault because his own teammate didn't run off a shoulder like he's supposed to. And so because his own teammate didn't rub shoulders with him, it caused there be space between Edey and his teammate that Zakai could get through. And so Edey had to lean out to make the screen. Wasn't called. That's the first one. The second one might be even more ridiculous. And that was the second time Zakai got knocked down. On that screen, Edey walked through the screen, lowered his shoulder into him and walked through it. He took 2 steps. One, as he was making contact, and then brought his left shoulder into him, and then finished with his other foot. Hello, I mean that is 100% an illegal screen,
and the officials were staring right at it.
Absolutely, both of those screens happened at the top of the key, in plain sight of everybody in the gym and everybody watching on television. And neither one were called illegal screens. That's 3 fouls that we just said, 3 of them. That means he has 4 fouls in the game, and we're probably at maybe the under 8 media timeout. That's a totally different ball game. That's what ticks me off about yesterday, because that game, that right there would have had a unbelievably important. Think about Edey scored their last 17 points of the game. And if that's the case, then he's not even on the floor because he's on the bench with 4 fouls. That ticks me off. But if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, I guess.
That's why I didn't want to drive to Detroit, because that's always what was going to happen, because that's been how it's been for years. So I'm ready for that guy to go somewhere else. And that's just kind of the bad luck of that Tennessee basketball has had in March, really. This was not a Tennessee underperformed or underachieved or didn't hit shots or outshot the best 3-point shooting team percentage-wise in the country from 3, both by percentage and points yesterday. Really outplayed them across the board except rebounds and free throw line. And so it's kind of that weird bad luck that Tennessee's gotten. Vescovi being sick didn't help, and you can go back to Barnes's March runs. He ran into Carmelo Anthony back when he made it to the Final Four. That guy has run into some studs late in the tournament that have just not you don't have an answer for.
Carl said the mob must be related to Edey.
Somebody's looking out for him.
Yeah. Moondrops Beauty said he sent JJJ flying, and Josiah's a big guy. Darius, welcome Darius. He said the refs let Edey do whatever he wanted to and never called a foul. Let's see, Darius. He just said that again. Let's see. Like he said, these guys have nothing to hang their heads about. Absolutely. Moondrops Beauty said, to make matters worse, every time Edey shot a free throw, which was every 2 minutes, they showed a close up of his face. So annoying. Even my mom was like, stop showing this guy. JL said they want UConn and Purdue. Absolutely. That's 100% correct.
2 generational bigs going at it. That's a storyline, right? That's what you're talking about. It's
let's see. I'm trying to look through the comments here.
It hurts seeing Alabama in the Final Four when you were clearly a better team than them all year. They didn't have to play Purdue or UConn or Houston even. They got North Carolina, who I would have loved to have played again. Honestly,
absolutely.
Connect went off against them. They don't defend anybody. I would have loved to have played that team again.
Like he said, when those obvious fouls on Edey aren't being called, what does that tell a team that's already worn out? Yeah, you're exactly right. Let's see. Jay Vol said, not to mention, should have been a charge against Josiah. I'm assuming that was one of the elbows when he just turned around and tried to muscle his way into the lane.
I think he's referring, there was a moment in the second half when Edey was just running down the court and Josiah manned up and just stood there and took the hit, and Edey ran him over. No call.
Yep.
I remember that. And I know that Josiah's just trying to do whatever he can there, and hats off to him. But God, that guy took a beating yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen boxing matches where guys came out looking better than I'm sure that guy feels today.
Carl said, I was watching the basketball and baseball game at the same time, had to quit watching the last 4 minutes of basketball because I was going to throw something through the TV. Well, real quick before we talk about just our general thoughts about this season as a whole, Reed, so I have a magazine that's behind me every time we go live right back here. I think you're familiar with that particular publication. That is Football Time in Tennessee magazine. TK81 said I would just beat LSU in the women's game.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Let's see.
Something's going right. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Reed, tell us about that magazine, because I believe in about a month and a half we might be seeing it hit our shelves again.
Yeah, hopefully. So 128 pages, full color, season preview for Tennessee football, SEC football. This is its 37th or 38th year, so been going on strong for a long time, and I should probably be doing some writing right now for it that needs to get done this week, but talking to you guys instead.
And we appreciate that.
hopefully finishing up. We go to lay out publication, everything right after the spring game, and spring practice concludes. So we conclude all the newcomers and the latest information out there. So yeah, we'll be coming out hopefully mid-May. You can follow y'all on Twitter or me on Twitter. I'm sure we'll keep you posted on where to find it, but it'll be a good year. Maybe a certain potential star quarterback headed for the cover this season.
I was wondering about that.
We'll see.
So I was wondering earlier. I was like, I wonder if they're going to put Nico on the cover. That's what I'm talking about. Darius said the NCAA got what they wanted, a potential Purdue versus UConn title game. Totally agree. And just so everybody knows, and I talked with the rest of them about this before we went live. So this is Reed's like probably 5th or 6th time at least being on our show. And I just want y'all to know he is the man. Like, he is so gracious with his time. He does this pro bono. I mean, like he doesn't even ask for anything in return. So here's what we're going to do as a thank you to him tonight while we're live. Any super chat that's given via YouTube, or if you're watching on Twitter and you come back later and watch it on YouTube and you give us super thanks, 100% of the proceeds from that are going straight to Reed tonight. So if you want to thank him with us, we'd appreciate that. But just so everybody, and he had no clue, like he's hearing this for the first time right now. So just as a thank you to him, 100% of the proceeds from the super chats are going to go to him tonight. But here's what we're going to do. Real quick.
It's very kind of you.
Hey, we thank you, man. Audrey Kaler, who is like the investigative journalist of the year, she has texted us a dissertation on Twitter, and it is fantastic. Hey, Carl, thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, Carl. You're the man. So we're going to answer some of Audrey's questions here, and then we're going to give our just general thoughts about this whole basketball season as a whole, and then we're going to talk about Kellie Harper. So she said, I've got a lot of thoughts about the game.
I got a lot of grievances, and you people are going to
a lot of problems with you people.
Absolutely. So number one, she said, our guys had an amazing season. I had so much fun watching them play and dominate. I'm sorry and very angry that they were cut short in that manner. Number two, I am absolutely livid with how the officiating in the game against Purdue was handled. Hey, Kevin, you're the man, buddy. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's awesome. She said, we knew Edey would draw foul simply because he's gigantic. A lot of those calls were absolutely BS. Some of the proper calls, some were the proper calls. My real issue is the calls that weren't made. And so then she said, Exhibit A. And she sent photos for all this too. It's fantastic. She said, Exhibit A, Edey all but set up camp in the lane on almost every single offensive drive. Well, more than 4 seconds and up to 8 or 9 seconds plus, where he just stood there like a bump on a pickle waiting for the ball to be fed to him. Why was there no whistle? Yep, totally agree. Number two, the jump ball call with Triple J was just insane to me. So I didn't read this before I started saying my stuff. So she actually said a lot of the same stuff that I did. Carl, you're the man, dude. You're the man. Yeah, I appreciate that. She said, do you think that Adu should write Edie a letter of apology for his face getting in the way of Edie's elbow. I'm not sure what the protocol is for that situation. She said, I saw at least 2 hook and holds. That's exactly correct about the one with JP Estrella.
So I actually didn't have an issue with the hook and holds because they were letting every post player get away with murder all night. The call I had the greatest issue with in the post was when they let them absolutely just push and shove each other all night. And then Tobey is on Edie's back and he's got one forearm on him and he happens to put his other hand down and the ref immediately calls a double forearm.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you serious? Like in all the contact that's happened today, that's what you're going to regulate?
Yeah,
And,
I totally
and it
agree.
was hilarious because the camera immediately went to Rick Barnes, and Rick Barnes, you could read his lips. He goes, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Awaka just existing, over there near Edie got whistled.
Yeah.
Thank you, Moondrops Beauty.
Yeah, Moondrops Beauty, that's awesome. Thank you so much. She said, love the chemistry between Reed the Bros. Go Big Orange. Hey, we appreciate that so much.
Honorary bro.
That's right. That's exactly right. Eric said, what's up, all bros and Reed? Hey, good to have you with us, Eric. So then her last thing was Exhibit E. How can such a physical player that is that large not get a foul called on him for more than an entire half?
Yep.
I really do not understand that at all. There's so much more that I can ask, but it would take the entire show to answer them.
I would add to it, you said you charted the first 12 minutes and there was really only 2 possessions in the first 12 that should have probably been more than 3 seconds. But I would also add to that, I think if you went back and watched the second half when everybody got tired and he stopped moving, I think you probably find at least 10 possessions where it should have been 3 seconds.
Probably so.
In the first 12 minutes, they're running on adrenaline, they're moving, they're bouncing around. We were pushing the ball up and down the floor, so he didn't really get a whole lot of time to camp out. Typically, the 3-second call that gets called the most, because it's easiest for the refs, is when a post player catches the ball in the post, they've got a foot in the lane, they try to make a move, can't get anywhere, stop and think about it for a second, then kick it back out and don't leave the post. They stand there. Any ref with common sense can go, it's been 3 seconds, and blow the whistle and it's gone. There was a possession. I would encourage you to go back and watch it last night because I sat there just in disbelief watching it. There was a possession last night in the second half when Zach Edey caught the ball in the post, tried to make a move. We doubled down on him. He kicked it back out. He didn't leave, stayed inside, same spot because he's tired, didn't move. They swung it 2 or 3 passes, then threw it back inside to him, still standing in the same spot. He had been in there for at least 12 seconds.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
Had
that's
not moved an inch.
Yeah, they have to call that.
They basically threw it to him, threw it back out, went around the horn, still standing there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to call that. I mean, you just have to. Absolutely. So Audrey, by the way, you are awesome. Thank you so much for sending us all this stuff. You are fantastic. She also sent us this photo. This is Dalton Connect's shot chart compared to Zach Edey's shot chart. That is quite different.
Yeah. That guy can score from all over for sure.
6 threes, man. It was unreal. On fire. Well, so Reed, we're going to start with you. Give us and if you want to say more than 3, fire away, man. I don't care. But I asked Rustin and Reed both to just give us their top 3 takeaways or thoughts about this season as a whole from Vol basketball. So, Reed, what were your top 3 takeaways from this season?
I got you right here. It's easily the best season a Tennessee basketball team has played. It's definitely the best I've ever witnessed, but it's the best season in Tennessee basketball history, without a doubt. Swept the Final Four team in Alabama. Won at Rupp for the 4th time in Barnes' tenure. That had happened twice the previous 36 years. Twice. 2 times in the previous 36 years before Barnes got here. Tennessee won at Rupp. Did it this year against a talented Kentucky team. Won the 2nd outright SEC title since 1967. All the history made this season. Advanced the furthest the program has ever advanced in March. Longest win streak against top 25 teams in SEC history. Not Tennessee history, SEC history. Tennessee
Yeah, buddy.
has been ranked in the top 25 every week for 3 years. It
That's
is
incredible.
unreal, the run that Tennessee has been on. So
Could-
best season that Tennessee's ever had. In my lifetime, yours, anybody's. That's one. Two, the best player that I've ever seen wear the orange and white. I was young. I remember Allen Houston, so I can't judge his game because I would have been like 6 or 7. I remember seeing him play and going to games, and loved cheering for him with the Knicks for years. But best player in at least 30 plus years to wear the orange and white, and Dalton connects. Most points for a Vol in the NCAA tournament. Most points for a Vol in NCAA tournament game. Second most points in a season in program history behind Allen Houston. SEC Player of the Year, runner-up National Player of the Year, bucket getter. What I loved about him more than anything, I think, is he got better as the year went on. At defense, at rebounding, guy couldn't rebound a ball anywhere near him when he came here, and he got so much better at that. Got a lot better defensively as the year went on. And I do think Barnes said something like, that guy's atomic. He's just getting started. I believe it. He got a lot better here at Tennessee. So credit to him. And the third one is related to that. I think this is Barnes' best coaching job at Tennessee for sure. One of the best in his career. Later in his career, really, I think learning from his mistakes, being too heavy-handed on the defensive side, trying to recruit some more bucket getters, changing the profile of the guys he wants to build his team. I think you're going to see that in Cameron Carr next year as well. Shifting the focus to playing with more tempo, getting up and down the floor more, not slogging it out so much. I think he made all the right roster moves and rotation moves when he had to, portal moves. Loved the game plan against Purdue, even though it didn't work out. I just think he's adapted and changed and grown a lot in these last few years. So hat tip. That's so rare, you guys know, in any industry, that you can have the same job essentially for decades and you're still growing and innovating and changing and challenging yourself. And that's maybe the most impressive thing about a Hall of Fame coach. So those are my 3 things. Best team in school history, one of the best players in school history, best in my lifetime, and then best job Barnes has done maybe in his career, honestly.
Boo, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love that, man. That was perfect. And exactly what you said about Rick Barnes. That's incredible that even he was able to adapt his whole philosophy, essentially. I mean, thank you. That is fantastic. You were pumping people up in the comments too. Carl said, Reed dropping facts. He was loving it, man. And Carl gave another $10. Man, you were the man, Carl. He said, Reed donation, loving memory of Zach.
That will fund my vasectomy, Carl. Thank you.
Let's see. Kevin said this was a generational team for UT men's basketball. Totally agree. You were pumping Mina like you up. She said, Reed's working miracles. I'm smiling because she was so frustrated earlier about what had happened yesterday. Let's see. JL said Dalton should be National Player of the Year. When you were talking about Dalton there, and Carl said he should be. JL being a free throw specialist, catching ball at the rim is not a Player of the Year. I think that's fair about Edie. I will say this one thing we didn't mention that we probably should have. Did Dalton miss a free throw yesterday? I don't think he did he? I don't think he missed a single free throw.
I think he missed one.
He was 3 for 4.
Yeah.
Oh, so he missed one. Sanders said it kills me the way he gets away with murder. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other comments that came through there. Mina Laggy said refs would have fouled out Euros before the first half was over.
They would have fouled him out from the bench for sure in warm-ups.
Yeah, maybe, but Urosh would have understood his role. Zach Edey would have gone
that's
with
true.
him. They would have headed to the locker rooms together.
Zach Edey might have thrown a punch.
Yeah, Urosh may have been gone before the 5th foul, but Zach Edey's been going with him.
Kevin made a great point. He said, didn't Shaq get called for fouls in college? He's like, why does Edey get away with it when Shaq didn't? I mean, that's a great point. That's a really good point.
Too much money involved.
People let us know he did in the comments that he did miss once. I mean, kudos to him for making his free throws yesterday too. Just a really impressive game. Rustin, what are your 3 big takeaways? Your 3 big thoughts about this year's Tennessee team?
So my first one is basically Reed's third one. Blown away that Rick Barnes, who turns 70 years old in a couple of months, completely reinvented himself with this roster. And, I was actually about a month ago, or 3 weeks ago, I was thinking about what's this going to look like next year. And then I saw who Tennessee was pursuing in the portal. And it was like, he's not going to change back. He's going to keep doing this. He's going to play up tempo. He's going to push the ball. It's amazing that a 70-year-old can who's been the man's won 800 games. A 70-year-old who has been there, done that, and had high-level success can completely reinvent himself and reinvent his program. It's just remarkable. So I think that's the first thing, was just watching Rick Barnes, like Reed said, probably his best coaching job ever. It's hard when you've done something one way for so long. It's hard not to jump back into that in pressure moments. And he did a great job of just continuing to do what they say they were going to do. He's got a fantastic staff around him. His staff does a great job keeping things in focus. It's an impressive group. The other thing I would say, did we lose Reed? I think we did.
We just lost Reed. I think his computer died. You go ahead.
Rick Barnes, number one, reinventing himself. Number two, again, Dalton Knecht. I did see most of Allen Houston's career. I was old enough to watch that. Allen Houston was kind of the Dominique Wilkins of college basketball. He had to take every shot because everybody around him sucked. He flourished and scored a lot of points because he had zero help. Dalton did what he did with a very talented group around him. And, that's just remarkable. And then the third thing, and I think it might be the thing that Tennessee fans should be most proud of. I don't know how many times we said it this year, either on the show or off the show. Rick Barnes recruits really, really good kids. And they understand their role, they understand the expectations, and they are so likable, and they have so much fun together. And it is so fun to watch. I love when they mic up the players and when they give the players microphones on this team, because you can go all the way back to the Grant and Admiral days. Like, every group of kids that Rick Barnes has recruited to Tennessee, they're all so likable. And they're just such fantastic representatives of the university. And after that game last night, to watch Zach Edey and some of the stuff he did and said, it was like, dude, this is why Rick Barnes didn't recruit you. He has an expectation of who's going to represent his teams, and you ain't it. And so it is just so refreshing to watch the guys that he brings in. And I love the story of Dalton coming on his visit, and Rick Barnes, first thing he told him, I don't have any NIL money for you. Like, if you want to be here, you come, you earn your spot. And if people want to give you NIL money, then it'll be there. But I don't have anything for you. How many visits you think Dalton Knecht went on where that statement was made? Just so refreshing.
So we've had a couple questions come in. Moondraw Speedy asked about the portal. She said, can y'all talk about who they're going after in the portal? And she said, I surprisingly haven't seen anything about the portal yet. Well, really, it just with the tournament going on, teams weren't hopping in. The 7'1" kid from Florida Atlantic went in the portal today. So there's somebody that you might be looking for. Go ahead, Rustin.
I don't think he's on their radar. I think they're very happy with Jonas and Tobey and JP and Cade Phillips. I think they've got a core unit right there that's going to be really good. They're going after Malik Mack. He's the point guard at Harvard. He was the Ivy League Freshman of the Year this year. Flew under the radar out of high school. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year out of Washington, D.C., which, if you know anything about D.C. basketball, that is high level basketball.
Not bad.
So the fact that a kid out of inner city DC ended up going to Harvard, was pretty impressive, and then wins Ivy League Freshman of the Year. He's a high-level scorer, legit point guard. I think he gives them – he's got 3 years of eligibility left, so I think he gives them a guy who can come in, play behind Zakai, gives Zakai a rest from time to time, allows Freddie DeLeon to move to the 2, which is where he's probably more suited. So it gives them even more guard depth to replace the loss of Santi. Then there's the kid, and his name's escaping me right now, St. Thomas, out at Northern Colorado, Dalton Connect 2.0, 6'7" wing, averaging almost identical numbers to Dalton last year at Northern Colorado. I would be very surprised if he's not a Vol. And then there's a few other ones in the portal that could be interesting. Jacoby Gillespie from Belmont, high-level scorer, big-time slashing wing that can also shoot it. Grew up in Nashville, could be very easily a high target for the Vols. I think you're going to see mostly guards and wings. I would be very surprised if they take a post player.
They've got, again, this team has a good core. Now, who knows what happens with the portal. And obviously, they need to add a few pieces. I got to add some scoring. You're not going to replace DK. But I think just shifting the focus a little bit to being a little more offensive forward. Like I think Carl said, they're not doing away with the smothering defense. Ask Creighton about that, right? They shut them down. They shut down Purdue's three-point shooting. Whether were they 3 for 12 or 3 for 15 or something yesterday. Tennessee's still a defensive-minded team. But I think I'm really excited to see Cam Carr. I wrote up the article for him for Basketball Time the year, I guess last year, 2 years ago, the year he signed. So I remember reading up and researching him, and he was hitting 100, 200 threes with a ball that's bigger than regulation a day. That guy's going to be a sniper, a shooter, a scorer who's also long and athletic. Tennessee hasn't had a lot of that, length at that position. And you saw they had it in Dalton this year, and that boded well. I do think you're going to see maybe, hey, let's get some length at that 3 spot, a little more athleticism, a little more length, like you're saying, and then add some. They need a Zakai, somebody that can spell Zakai, because him playing as hard as he does for 40 minutes, it's gonna, in a game like that, postseason, you gotta have somebody. So. But what a great portal destination for somebody, right? It's going to be hot this year. I don't think Tennessee's going to have trouble being an attractive landing spot after what Dalton Connect did.
Amen.
And I loved, he said this after the game yesterday on that topic. He said, "I've never had a relationship as close with a coach as Coach Barnes. He told me he would coach me hard, and he did his part of the deal, and he did so much more than that." So to your point about Rick Barnes and Connect, the players that Barnes recruits, what a great endorsement of the culture of Tennessee's program and what you're going to get if you come here as a player. Yeah.
And at the end of that conversation, he also added on, "I love Knoxville. This is my home now. I'll definitely be coming back many, many times." If you're in the portal, that's definitely going to speak to you.
I'm going to give my 3 big takeaways from this season as well. Just as a reminder, thank you all so much for all the super chats that you've given so far. That has been fantastic. Just so you know, if you weren't here when I mentioned it a second ago, 100% of the proceeds from the super chats are going to go to Reed tonight as our thank you to him for all the times that he's joined us. It's been fantastic. And so he didn't know about it beforehand. We surprised him with that. But we appreciate that very, very much. So my 3 big takeaways from this year. Number 1, and y'all have already mentioned it, what an honor it was that we just so happened to be witnesses to arguably the greatest player to play at Tennessee. I think, it'd be tough to say that Dalton was better than Allen Houston, but my goodness, he was certainly in the conversation, right? We even had a whole part of a show earlier this year where we were talking about, is he the best player at Tennessee since Allen Houston? And And unanimously, we were like, yeah, he sure is. Best pure shooter was probably Chris Lofton, but as far as all around player, I mean, Dalton can get up in the air ways that Chris Lofton could not. He can change shots in midair the way that Chris Lofton could not around the rim. So what a privilege really it was for all of us to be able to watch this season and what Dalton was able to do. I don't think anybody's going to ever forget him putting up 40 against Auburn or 39, I think it was, against Auburn. I don't think people are ever going to forget the 6 threes that he hit against Purdue yesterday. I mean, the guy was just must-see TV. And what a privilege it was that we got to watch him. The second thing was, I so wish this year could have gone differently for Santi. He is a beloved Vol by everybody. Plays his heart out every game, and to not have had the year that he was hoping to have, I hate that for him. And I hate that his season ended the way it did. Not getting to play at all against Creighton, and then really just totally drained of energy trying to gut it out for his teammates against Purdue. I hate that that's how it ended for him. I so wish that it could have ended differently, because, I mean, talk about an illustrious career as a Vol. I mean, Santi has that for sure. And then my third thing is similar to what you all said, but it's a little bit different. I sincerely hope that all the people who have questioned Rick Barnes' ability to coach basketball over the last couple of years will finally be quiet about that now. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous what some folks have said about him. I mean, the man has won 800 games coaching basketball. Read what Reed said earlier about Tennessee has now been in the top 25 for like 70 something straight weeks or whatever it is, like 3 straight seasons. I mean, when has that ever happened? Literally ever in the history of Tennessee basketball. I mean, it's incredible what the man has done. He's one of only 2 coaches active in men's basketball right now who have over 800 wins. I mean, the guy he's and more than that, he's a phenomenal man. He is a person that you would want your son to play for. And so I hope all of that talk ends now. I really do. Some of the comments that just came through, Moondrops, what you said, did you see the moment between Bruce Pearl and Candace Parker? Absolutely. That was a really cool moment after the Tennessee Creighton game. Carl said Dalton's a true national player of the year. JL said he can score on all levels. Absolutely. Oreo Puppy Dog just joined us. Hey, welcome, buddy. He said refs have protected E all year. Both our big guys fouled out for the first time we played them. They did. Mr. Jones just joined us. He said, man, those refs were horrible. Let's see. And we definitely talked about that a lot already. Carl said, we have the sadness of his final game, but cool thing is Santi has team memories and relationships for life. Absolutely. No doubt about it. So I'm glad we all got to witness this season, because it was a memorable one for sure. So having said that, on the opposite side of the court, I guess maybe Danny White was like, it's been too calm around here, and this fan base is used to tracking flights, and we got to refresh their skills a little bit. So unfortunately, and I do want to say this, nobody is happy the way things turned out with Kellie. Everybody wanted her to succeed. Nobody wanted her to fail. She is beloved among all of Vol Nation for her time here playing for Pat, for being a coach here, following in Pat's footsteps. Everybody loves her. Everybody wanted her to succeed. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Even at some points, there were questions this year, could they even make the tournament, which thankfully they did very easily. Danny saw that it was time, and he made a really difficult decision, a decision that I don't envy him having to make at all. But gentlemen, what are Reed? We'll start with you. What are your thoughts about what Kellie was able to do, the status of this program, and who do you think they might go after?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I think it was the right move. I don't think it was an easy move, but I think it was the right move. Harper, you could see it there with Harper. Tennessee was so close so many times. You saw it this year with the way they played South Carolina better than anybody, and came up just short and just a heartbreaking loss, which maybe that changes things. Honestly, I don't think it should have, though, because she is 2-17 against the top 25 the last 2 years.
That is not good.
Tennessee hasn't made an Elite Eight since Holly Warlick led them there in 2015 and 16
with Pat's players,
and they haven't been to a Final Four since 2008. And right now, women's basketball is in the forefront of the national conversation. Right? It's the product is growing, it's skyrocketing, and Tennessee used to be in the forefront of women's college basketball, and they're not even really on the periphery anymore. So I think now is the time to make that move. Now is the time for Tennessee to swing big, swing for the fences, and bring someone in here that can flip this program around. And it doesn't have to take long. You know, Tennessee can get right back there. And who wouldn't want to come play in Thompson Bowling Arena, one of the best college arenas in the country? And who wouldn't want to come and play at one of the most successful college basketball, not just women's basketball, college basketball programs in the country? And I get that no one wanted to be the person to fill Pat Summitt's shoes. You can't. No one wants to be the person to be after that either, which was Kellie. But now I think you've got a little better shot, a little larger candidate pool, I think, to pull from for Danny White. But I'm with you. I liked Kellie a lot. I liked her as a player, liked her as a coach. Thought just so many of the fundamental things that she did were great. Both for the program and on the court. The issue was consistency and being able to sustain it for an entire game or an entire season. It's like the guts were there, but the edges weren't. And at that level of women's basketball, you got to have all the pieces going.
Rustin, what do you think?
I'll start with what you said. So I was never a fan of the Holly Warlick hire. I questioned that from day one. Holly was a fantastic recruiter, awful coach. No player development, no in-game adjustments, couldn't coach. Anybody who was around the program could have told you that in a heartbeat. People who knew basketball knew Holly Warlick was not a basketball coach. She was a recruiter. So I would just say this. As horrible of a job as Holly did, she won 72% of her games. In 5 years, Kellie Harper has won 67% of her games. So, you know,
numbers don't lie.
Nobody wanted Kellie to succeed more than me, because I was watching the decade of dysfunction starting to snowball all over again in women's basketball. The reality is this is going to be an easy search. Everybody wants the Lady Vol job if they're not connected to Pat Summitt. If they can come in and put their stamp on it, Tennessee has more resources than almost every school in America. Tennessee's facilities are better than almost every school in America. And the fan base is top 5 nationally. So when you start talking about NIL, different things like that, the right person can walk in and immediately win and win big. I think the other thing that really matters, we have an athletic director who understands that and will go out and get the best person for the job.
Well, and to your point, Knoxville is the mecca of women's college basketball, or just women's basketball in general.
The OG, yeah, that's it.
I mean, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is in Knoxville because of the University of Tennessee and Pat Summitt. Like, I mean, that it is the mecca of women's basketball. And the Lady Vol's name is iconic in women's college basketball. I mean, it like Reed said, it's the only program to never miss the NCAA tournament. The only one in the entire country.
It's a demonstrable brand. Like, it's its own brand. Successful brand on its own, completely away from the Vols or the University of like it's its own brand. And in this era, to both of your points, like, it's a great time to make this move. It's a great time to make this move. And I do think maybe Kentucky making a move put some pressure on Tennessee and Danny White when they went and got Kenny Brooks from Virginia Tech, who went to the Final Four last year, when Tennessee hasn't been to the Final Four since 2008. I think that maybe put some pressure on Tennessee as well. But yeah, I think it's unfortunate, but right move, right time, in my opinion, and right guy to make the hire also, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yes, totally agree. Jeff said her high school recruiting had as much to do with it as her coaching. She struggled getting recruits out of high school. Let's see.
I would add to that. I felt like at times we were watching a Butch Jones coach team. Can you name me one player on that roster who's gotten better since they got there?
Ooh.
I mean, maybe Rakia.
Really?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I said maybe.
Yeah.
Rakia was pretty dominant when she walked in the door.
So Mr. Jones is throwing out potential candidates. He said, Tennessee Athletics not accepting volunteers. Nice. That's well played. He said, Candace Parker, Peyton Manning.
The two named Todd Helton. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Allen Houston.
Yeah.
Elijah said, put a blank check in front of Dawn Staley and make her say no. You can't go without at least offering her.
Yes, you can.
Let's see. Mina, like he said, it used to not be the Final Four. It was the Final Three in Tennessee.
Yep.
That's a good point. Absolutely. I've seen a lot of names being thrown around. And here's the thing. We could sit here and wildly throw out names. Like, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't try to at least get, oh gosh, Mr. Jones. No way. No, he said Gino. He's joking around. He's kidding. Definitely can't do that.
The only name that you cannot go after.
I'll tell you the biggest reason why I think Dawn Staley will not be on this list. Rick Barnes, Tony Vitello, Josh Heupel. What do the three of them all have in common in a press conference?
I don't know.
You got me stumped on this one.
It's never about them. They talk with humility. They talk about their players. They talk about their assistant coaches. When Dawn Staley's in a press conference, it's always about her. So I don't think Danny White would even consider bringing that personality into his athletic department.
Mr. Jones just brought up another person's name that will not be on the list. That is Tyler Summit. Definitely not.
Might as well throw Stephen Pearl on that list.
Yeah. Some people have thrown out Jeff Walls at Louisville as someone who could do the job.
Two Final Fours at Louisville.
Jeff Walls is a logical option.
Elite Eight appearances.
I'm still going to continue to say it. And somebody today said he's 67 or 68 years old. I'm still going to continue to say it. Wes Moore is the best X's and O's coach in America. And he is right now playing in a Final Four with a subpar budget and average players.
That's fair point.
You give him Tennessee's resources, that man will win championships.
Okay, so Eric just said go after Jeff Walls or Kim Mulkey. So I'm going to say please not Kim Mulkey. That is not a personality that you want anywhere around the program, in my opinion.
That's not a personality you want anywhere near Knoxville.
Mr. Jones said Nick Saban.
He's not busy.
He's not busy right now. That's where TK, welcome. TK said USC's coach, Southern California, not
Lindsay Gottlieb. Yeah, she would be. I saw. I think Blake Toppenmeyer's article on her earlier. I hope I'm attributing that right.
Yeah.
But so USC's head coach, they're playing for a spot in the Final Four tomorrow. Signed the top recruiting class in the country. Built that USC, not a women's basketball powerhouse, right? Kind of built that up from nothing. Was an assistant for the Cavs for 2 seasons. A guy that you may have heard of, Steve Kerr, was a fan of hers and wished he had hired her. She's going places. Would she jump at a spot like Tennessee that has more pedigree, more resources? You would think maybe. So that is an intriguing name and does kind of fit maybe his MO of, hey, let's go after somebody younger that can be here a long time, potentially.
If he goes young, a couple of other options that'll absolutely be considered. Molly Miller at Grand Canyon. She's won at an insanely high level everywhere she's been. Kim Caldwell-Stevens at Marshall. She has the highest scoring offense in America. Just won the Division II national championship at Glenville State. Marshall hired her. She walked in year 1, had the highest scoring team in America. Fun style of play. She presses and runs the whole game. They're going to put 100 on the board every night. So if you want to sell tickets, she could be a great option. If they want to go young, those are probably the top 2 candidates there. Outside of Lindsay Gottlieb.
You got to think Kara Lawson's name is somewhere on the list.
Especially with Danny White's ties to Duke. You would have to think there's some connection there.
Well, and that was one of my, when you brought this topic up, Evan, earlier, I was thinking, does he go outside of Tennessee basketball family?
Good question.
I kind of think he does, or maybe would prefer to, given the last couple of coaches. But if he doesn't, she would be way up there for me. Love her. I think she's done a good job with Duke, so still maybe a little green. But if you watch her offenses and the way she coaches, she's got it. I mean, she's got it. I didn't have her higher up on my list because I do think that he's going to go outside.
Yeah,
that's my hunch. Could be wrong. Just my hunch.
I do think Kara almost qualifies, even though she is a Lady Vol. I do think she almost qualifies as being outside because she did spend so much time in the WNBA. So she saw a very different style. And then to leave that and go coach under Brad Stevens.
With the Celtics, yep.
Brad Stevens is a little picky about who's on his bench. So that's crazy impressive and probably one of the most knowledgeable basketball minds to ever walk the earth. So for her to coach under him and get to learn his thought processes, it's almost like she's kind of coming from a third party perspective and not necessarily a Pat Summitt line. So I could see that.
Indra Speedy asked, do y'all think Danny would hire a man? I'm for it, but I'm just not sure it happened. I think Danny White will hire the absolute best possible candidate, whoever that may be. I think that's his goal. It doesn't matter, gender, ethnicity, none of that matters. What matters is, are they the best person for the job?
Wins. That's all Danny White cares about. Wins.
Yeah. Carl said, I hope so. Coaches understand what is expected from Tennessee, especially the Lady Vols. I mean, that is the historical football and women's basketball. That's historically what Tennessee's been known for. He said, look at Heupel and how he's embraced what it is to be a Vol. Absolutely. A lot of people are saying Candace Parker. So her playing days aren't done yet.
She signed a contract. She's playing next year or this coming year. And in the men's game, you've not seen a lot of success from former star players going back to coach college basketball. You just had a former star player as a coach in Kellie Harper. I don't know that they would go that route. And honestly, at this point in her career, I don't think Candace is interested in that job.
She also makes really good money to sit at a desk and talk about basketball, and people who are in those jobs typically don't like to leave.
She's great at it too.
Mhm.
She's so good. I mean, that was, if you watched any of the NCAA tournament, she could host Good Morning America and get that job tomorrow.
Yeah.
She's that talented of a commentator, and just it's effortless. I remember when the SEC Network launched, I went to cover SEC Media Days, and they had somebody there doing media rounds, Maria Taylor, who now
Mhm.
is every time you turn on a TV, Maria Taylor is on there, and you could tell then that woman is not going to be here long. And
Yeah.
I even feel that way about Candace doing national basketball commentary. She can do whatever commentary she wants and name her price when she retires.
Yep.
Moondrop Speedy made a good point. She said great players aren't automatically good coaches. That's exactly right.
I think they're usually bad coaches.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they can't relate to the non-elite mindset.
Yep.
So Elijah has asked a very good question. I didn't want to talk about this ever, but he's brought it up, so I guess we will. He said, "Do you guys think Rick might retire after next year?" I have a feeling he might. How old is he? 72? 71?
No, he turns 70 in a couple of months.
Oh, then we're good. So I'm gonna say he's got at least 3 years left in him, maybe 5, but I don't think he's got more than 5.
July 17th, for everybody who wants to celebrate, is Rick Barnes' birthday. He'll be 70 years old. Mark it on your calendars. Yeah, I don't see that guy hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. In fact, I think he's speeding up and getting better right now.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's really hungry and knows how close he is to having a season like they had this year, which was the best season in this program's history. So I just I don't see the spark dying or anything. Now, maybe if Tennessee were to win a championship, a national championship, or get to a Final Four, I could see him saying, "I'm out." But I don't think he wants to be done. I haven't gotten any of those signs.
Yeah, I agree.
Mr. Jones just came up with a coaching solution for the Lady Vols. Just hologram Pat Summitt. There you go.
It would be a lot better than what they've had.
I also think he's extremely self-aware, and
yeah, I agree with that.
And I think he has a really good relationship with Danny White, and I think he is so old school in some of his thought processes that when he becomes aware that he probably needs to be done, he'll probably go to Danny White and say on his own, "Hey, let's put together a succession plan. Let's make sure we're ready for this. This is going to be it." I think he's that self-aware that they'll probably even know before the season starts what his plans are, whatever year he decides to retire.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Well, Reed, as always, man, you're so kind to us and how you give of your time. So we're going to end. Robert said Vicky DeMoss would be great.
That's Mickey DeMoss.
Yeah, Mickey.
So we're going to end, Reed, with a quick synopsis of the men's baseball team. Get your thoughts on them for what they did this weekend. So I do want to say this. If you watched our show, really, over the last 2 weeks, like going back to the bracketology show, but especially last week, if you watched what we did any last week, I feel like the Vol Bros got some street cred last week because last Thursday we me and Aggie said thank you, Dr. Carringer.
You just got a degree.
Dr. Bro.
That's right. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I feel like we hit the nail on the head about this past weekend because Thursday night I said, here's my prediction for this weekend. And then I asked Rustin to make predictions too. And he had almost the exact same predictions I did. But I said, my predictions are the Lady Vols or softball is going to sweep Auburn. The baseball team is going to win 2 out of 3 against Georgia. The men's basketball team is going to beat Creighton and they're going to lose to Purdue. The only thing I missed and the only thing Rustin missed was the sweep of the softball team. That's it.
Yeah.
and they won 2 out of 3. So here's the thing. When you look at the basketball predictions we made, we nailed it, man. Like watching the game and hearing what they said after the Creighton game, like they said all the stuff we said on this show. We said we named them Josiah Jordan James and Tobe Awaka were going to be the X factors against Creighton. They were the X factors. We said that Tennessee's guards were going to pressure Creighton's guards and not allow them to get open looks at 3 like they had been against Oregon. That's exactly what happened. So I felt pretty good about that one. We nailed that one. And then we said that unfortunately we don't think Tennessee would beat Purdue because they're going to have to play 5-on-8, and that's exactly what happened. So Mr. Jones said you jinxed us. I apologize about that. So I felt like we got some street cred there. And then today, now this I'm totally bragging on this one, and I don't even care. I'm like I'm just bragging here, and you know, this is how it is. So earlier today, I checked our bracketology tournament challenge, and a certain someone is sitting atop the leaderboard right now at numero uno with 750 points. And if you look through here, the next closest person who even has a chance at catching me is Michael Collins. So congrats, Michael. Kudos to you, buddy. But if Purdue and UConn get to the championship game, I have, before the championship has even been played, I have won the Vol Bros Bracket Challenge. So I get to get myself a shirt.
Rigged.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I was pretty pumped about that.
I'm just gonna say I don't get to see any of the back end of this. Only one person does, and that person just happens to be in first place. So do with that what you will.
So I'm just saying, like somebody called it pretty good there. If Texas A&M had beaten Houston, I might be winning the whole ESPN one right now. I don't know. That would have been amazing if they had made it to the Final Four. Because I don't think anybody else.
They gave him a game. They gave him a game.
And people, like I told people at work, like I picked them, and they're like, "Are you kidding me?" Okay, well, NC State's going to the Final Four, and they were an 11 seed. Texas A&M was a 9. You know,
picked the wrong sweetheart.
Same region. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so all that to say, going into this weekend. Obviously, a huge matchup with Georgia, literally the 2 best hitting teams in the country. Mm-hmm. So, Reed, what were your general thoughts about the baseball team's weekend and what they accomplished, taking the series from Georgia?
Well, maybe a turning point in the season for this team, who's been a little inconsistent since SEC play started. I think if you look at, you got run ruled Friday, you're down 7-3 Saturday, and my Twitter feed is a disaster. You know, Tennessee baseball is terrible. Tennessee baseball is mid. Tennessee baseball.
I love that.
And then they came storming back. Heart of the order was dominant. Win 16-11, 7-0 Sunday. Take the series and ranked 4th or 5th in the country right now, depending on who you talk to. So their demise was greatly exaggerated. I do think this could be a turning point for this baseball team potentially this season, and just kind of, hey, let's focus, let's grind, let's dial in and show everybody what they're capable of, because obviously, I mean, that order can mash.
Oh man, yeah.
You got a good start Sunday as well from Sechrist, and
yes,
I think that could be a series that you look back on if this season goes the way we think it might, and think, that was a big weekend in Knoxville.
Baseball's a rally sport. Baseball's a contagious sport. Huge kudos to Kirby Cannell. Georgia comes out there on Friday night and just kicks our tail, hits everything we throw. AJ Causey gets shelled. The bullpen gets shelled. Everybody, like, if anybody could have given up a run, everybody did. Come out to start day 2, Drew Beam gets ripped. Which is starting to get a little concerning, honestly, because it's happening every single weekend now.
Yeah.
And again, he was mostly fastball slider. I don't know what's going on with the other 2 pitches, but he's not mixing. And then, Georgia had all the momentum in the world. I mean, they've now at that point played about 12 innings of just constant run parade.
22 runs in 12 innings.
And here comes Kirby Connell, and it all just ends. I mean, that dude went out there and pitched his tail off and shifted the entire momentum for the weekend, gave his team hope that they could come back, held Georgia down while the bats got awakened, and then it carried over into Sunday, and they just beat the crap out of them. And it was cool to watch Kirby Connell rally that team. And I guarantee you, when Tony Vitello has a chance to talk about that series, he's going to be talking a lot about Kirby Connell and Xander Sechrist. Those two guys showed up.
I'm so glad that both of y'all mentioned Xander Sechrist and Kirby Connell, because those were the exact two people that I was thinking about. That, here are these guys. They have not been lauded in their time here. Xander, especially, he struggled to find innings in the last couple of years. People thought he was going to be the day 3 starter this year. Didn't work out for him at first. AJ Russell is having some injury stuff, and so here he comes. He's starting against arguably the best hitting team in the country. They're leading the country in home runs, and they shut him out, baby. I mean, come on. After Kirby came in, they didn't allow another run the rest of the series.
I think the other thing we learned is if our starters and middle relievers can get us to Nate Snead, we're winning. That dude is lights out.
And so I'm so glad that both of you mentioned those two guys, because I wrote their names down specifically to mention them as well, that they deserve all the credit in the world this weekend. And Dylan Dreiling, somebody needs to buy that dude a hamburger for lunch tomorrow. I mean, like that guy.
And Dalton Bargo.
Holy cow.
And Dalton Bargo. Dalton Bargo never steps on the field on Friday, doesn't start on Saturday, finally gets in the game, and is hitting rockets so hard that they start him on Sunday. And between the 2 days, he goes 4 for 7.
At a position that he doesn't normally play.
Yeah.
Because Billy Amick, and I can't not finish this without saying what Billy Amick's injury was again, because it's still, in my opinion, the funniest injury announcement Tennessee's athletic department has ever given. Billy Amick had an appendix injury. That's what it was called.
AKA an appendectomy.
Right. I guess you can't say exactly.
So in my opinion, that is hilarious. Reed, you'll appreciate this. My question was, well, did he fall on a helmet and injure his appendix? Is that what happened?
Right. Yeah. This team has, I'm talking pitching, but they have 4 players with 10 home runs right now.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, The craziest stat of all, the most grand slams a Tennessee team has ever hit in a season is 7. This team has already done it in March.
That's incredible.
Wow. Clutch.
So Carl, I think I missed a comment from you earlier about the coaching search, but Carl is our resident baseball expert, because Carl is all about some Tennessee baseball. And so he's had some few thoughts here that I want to show. He said, thought after Friday's first ever run rule game in the Vitello era at home. I didn't even know that. So I just learned something from Carl right there. Carl bringing the heat here. He said he was afraid he might get roasted by Georgia after that. So proud of their fight and claw to take the series. This is exactly right. Like Rustin said, they were down 7-3 on Saturday. And like Reed said, they're down 7-3. And then all of a sudden, here they come, buddy. That was it, the fifth inning. I think the 5th inning when they scored 6 runs or something in 1 inning. I think it was the 5th. Just capped off with that Dylan Dreiling grand slam. He had already hit a 3-run homer, and then he hits a grand slam after that. Just incredible, man. Incredible. Let's see.
It was the 5th and the 7th. We scored 6 in both.
Well, there you go. Mr. Jones said he had 2 grand slams in 1 game. Absolutely.
You're going to win a lot when you do that.
Yeah, that's a good stat.
Yeah. Not a big math guy, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
That's probably somewhere in the list in Moneyball.
Right. Yeah. Carl said speaking about our Volbros bracket challenge. He said, Evan's in first. Who does data entry? Oh, that's Evan. Let's see.
Rigged?
Carl said, yeah, exactly. Carl said Xander Sechrist was the hero we did not see coming. And yes, Kirby was clutch. Absolutely. Mr. Jones said,
Kirby changed the complexion of that entire weekend. I mean, people, unless you've played in a high level baseball environment, like hitting is contagious. When you come into that situation where everybody in the other roster are just hot as can be, and they all feel like they're swinging at beach balls, to walk up there and just completely shut them down, that's unheard of. Like he was a man this weekend.
Well, and talk about a juxtaposition of style. You got a beam throwing, hard right-handed, and then all of a sudden you bring in a big looping curveball from the left side. One of the most fascinating things about Kirby this season, and I'd be fascinated to go back and just watch just how much different it is. He is moving all over the place on the rubber.
Yeah,
to get leverage on hitters, and the last time he had an appearance, they called time and made him move closer to the rubber because he was so far away from it they couldn't tell if his cleat was touching it or not. I mean, like, he is working it all over the place right now. Kudos to him, man.
I think Tennessee showed the rest of the SEC the scouting report for how you beat Georgia. Georgia does not like crafty left-handers. Our left-handers pretty much did whatever they wanted all weekend long against them.
Because you just described Kirby Cannell and Xander Sechrist, so you just described.
Yeah,
he threw 94 pitches in that game. Incredible.
Yep.
Incredible.
Absolutely. Easily his longest outing of the year. Easily.
Might be the longest outing of his entire career.
I would.
Yeah, maybe.
I would doubt he's thrown for more than that, but that's a lot. That's a lot.
Jeff
He's
said,
fun to watch.
Sorry.
He's fun to watch pitch. I know everybody likes the power guys and the flamethrowers, but I got a lot of heart love watching the crafty guys that just beat you with wits and, like you said, doing anything you can to get the leverage you need on those hitters.
Well, especially guys who start like Kirby does with those ridiculous wind-up positioning. So, like, the thing he does where he drops his hands all the way down to his feet and then comes all the way down back up real slowly. Yeah. Like, all that stuff's for show. None of that helps him. But, it's fun to watch.
Like Bugs Bunny out there.
Yep.
Jeff said, I'm sorry, but our pitching staff is worrying me. I would say starting pitching now.
It's the weak link in the team. I mean, I think that's fair to say right now. I don't think it's terrible, and you mash your way out of it some. But I think the arms are there, so it's can they peak at the right time and kind of get righted. Yeah. Personally,
AJ Causey's going to struggle against teams that have lots of left-handed bats. Just because of the sheer nature of how he throws, his fastball is going to run into their barrels. So they're going to have to kind of pick and choose how they pitch him against teams in the conference. But when he's facing a wide range of right-handed bats, he's extremely effective. AJ Russell's still rehabbing. He's not back. Once he gets back, that shores some of that up. I think in the long run, they'll be okay. The one that concerns me is Drew Beam. He does not seem to be himself. His stuff doesn't have the life it had last year. Like I said a minute ago, he's avoiding 2 pitches altogether.
Carl said he's missing over the plate too much. That is accurate.
Yeah. Well, and it's all fastball slider, so it's not hard to hit. If it's all in the middle of the plate and it's only 2 pitches.
Carl also said, to Dalton Bargo's credit, he also was, still battling back from a strained hamstring. That's exactly right. And so, kudos to Dalton. He had a tremendous weekend because Billy Amick wasn't even playing. And I mean, that's arguably your best hitter right now, not able to play because of an appendix injury. I'm sorry, I have to say, it cracks me up.
Appendix injury.
That's still one of the funniest things that the athletic department's ever done. Mr. Jones said about Amick, at least it wasn't a vasectomy that he had to recover from.
He would have been back sooner.
Yeah.
People are watching this like, what are they talking about? You can go back and watch a couple episodes ago, and you'll see. TK said, "How long will Amick be out?" My understanding is he's expected to be back next weekend.
I think the next series is what they think.
If they had a midweek game, this is the 1 week of the year they don't have a midweek game. If they had a midweek game, you'd probably see him get an at-bat or two in that just to get back in rhythm. It'll be interesting to see especially the way Dalton Bargo swung the bat all weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if they platoon him and Amick at third this weekend just to let Amick come back slowly. You may even see Dalton Bargo get the start and Billy Amick DH, so he doesn't have to do a whole lot in the field. But I think they'll bring him back slowly, let him get his timing. And when you've got Dalton Bargo playing the way he is, you can get away with that.
Yep, totally agree. Carl said Kirby shows up like a grown man and not intimidated. Absolutely. Well, Reed, once again, you've been extremely generous to us in your time because we're almost 2 hours in now. So to the 387 people who are watching at this very moment, we appreciate you very much. 388 was just a second ago, so somebody just went to bed. So we appreciate all of you so much. Reed, we appreciate you for joining us. Thank you again, man.
Yeah, thank you all. Enjoyed it. As always, guys, we'll do it again.
And in honor of the basketball team's season ending, we're going to do the basketball outro tonight as a fond farewell to one of the best Tennessee teams we've ever got to see play on the hardwood. So now we jumped up to 389. So 2 people just joined us. So welcome to you 2 folks. We're about to
maybe
their
internet went out like mine did earlier.
Yeah, there you go. But we 391, 2 more people just joined. If you're watching, we appreciate you all so much. We invite you to go back and rewatch the episode because we're about to sign off. But we do appreciate all of you for joining us. As always, it's so much fun getting to hear what you all tell us in the comments. That is a blast getting to see you interacting with us. But we appreciate everybody. We hope everybody has a great week. We'll see you Thursday night. And we hope that everybody has a happy. Well, wait, Easter's already happened. I was going to say happy Easter, but that already happened. My bad.
Happy Auburn weekend.
Carl said, "Hey, Reed, you do a great job winging this talking Vol stuff. Must have done some research." Yeah, he's done it a little bit here and there. He's done it a little bit here and there. Carl said, "Love the shows, guys. Absolutely." And just as a reminder, this magazine that you see behind me, this is from 2 years ago. And this is the 2 year ago issue. I've got this year sitting over here. Reed is one of the producers of Football Time in Tennessee magazine, also Basketball Time in Tennessee magazine. I don't think it's any news to anybody. It is literally the best preseason Tennessee magazine that is available. Seriously, it is the gold standard for Tennessee Vols football coverage every single year. So be looking for that in mid-May. I always get mine at Publix. That's where I get mine every year. So hopefully it'll be there again this year waiting on me. So Mr. Jones said, "Is that the year Purdue and the refs screwed us in the bowl game?" Sorry to bring that up. My bad. That was my fault. It was actually.
One of these days, Tennessee will best Purdue.
Carl said, "Where is baseball time in Tennessee?" Maybe one day, Carl. Carl is our baseball guy. He loves it. That's what I'm talking about. So we appreciate you reading, and everybody be looking for that Football Time in Tennessee magazine very, very soon. Probably mid to late May. That'd be awesome. And thanks to everybody for watching. Hope everybody has a great week. I'm going to play the basketball outro, and we'll sing a farewell song to the 2024 Tennessee Volunteers.